Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we will discuss about these 10 unsettling cases show these serial killers were born evil. It is hard to accept that someone might be bad from birth. It's difficult to believe that some kids might grow up to become well-known serial killers just a few decades later, since they seem so innocent. But that's precisely what happened in these incidents, as these heartless monsters all brutally took the lives of others. Even more unsettling, their past showed unmistakable indicators of their malevolent nature. But until it was too late, it was entirely disregarded. Number 10. Jeffrey Dahmer. There were numerous indications that Jeffrey Dahmer, the cannibal and serial killer, was a wicked child. From 1978 until 1991, the Milwaukee Monster murdered and severed the bodies of 17 young men and boys. Dahmer began gathering roadkill at an early age and dismembering the victims in the wooded area behind his house. The first indication of his interest with cadavers was his fascination with how the organs fitted together. To scare the locals, he also used stakes in the forest to impale the skulls of decapitated dogs. Forensic psychiatrist Michael Farnsworth of the Minnesota Security Hospital clarified, saying, "In a way, I would be more worried about the person who secretly captures and tortures animals." That was done by Jeffrey Dahmer. He used to catch animals and abuse them when he was younger. All of them pointed to Dahmer's eventual attempts to use his victims as props in his own deranged experiment with zombies. Number 9. Edmund Kemper. Edmund Kemper, who killed 10 people, including his mother and paternal grandparents, earned the moniker the Coed Killer. At 6 feet 9 inches, 693 centimeters, tall, weighing over 113 kilograms, 250 pounds, and possessing an IQ of 145, he was regarded as a natural-born killing machine who could dominate his victims on a physical and cerebral level. Kemper had a troubled upbringing, to put it mildly. Because his emotionally abusive mother thought he might hurt his sisters, she would confine him in the basement at night. He let his aggravation and rage out on the family pets. Kemper buried his pet cat alive at the age of 10. After that, he exhumed its lifeless body and set its head atop a spike. He killed the replacement cat with a machete when he was 13 years old, severing the top of its skull and dousing himself in its blood. He beheaded his own mother, using the same technique when he was an adult. Number 8. Jerry Brudos. Jerry Brudos, also known as the Shoe Fetish Slayer and the Lust Killer, killed at least 4 women in Oregon between 1968 and 1969. From an early age, he displayed indications of his future self as his fascination with women's shoes developed into an obsession. He brought home a pair of high-heeled shoes that he had found as a young child. This infuriated his mom, but rather than returning the shoes to her as she requested, he kept them in secret. By the time he reached adolescence, he had pilfered his teacher's high heels from behind her desk and was taking clothes off washing lines. He spent 9 months in a psychiatric facility at the age of 17 after attacking a female in a tunnel. He adjusted to married life after being freed, but his cravings persisted. Brudos frequently kept articles of the garments he tricked unsuspecting ladies into dyeing in order to serve as a menacing reminder of his heinous actions. Number 7. Albert DeSalvo, the Boston Strangler. Albert DeSalvo admitted to killing 13 women in the Boston region between 1962 and 1964. DeSalvo's mother, brothers, and father were all violently assaulted by their alcoholic father. The future serial killer was a young man who used to imprison little dogs and cats in boxes and shoot them with arrows for target practice in archery. He spent time in the U.S. Army and reform school, but he was never able to rein in his actions. Then DeSalvo went on a murderous rampage. he disguised himself as a worker, wearing green clothes, to enter the houses of his victims. He would tie his victims up, hold them at knife point, and then strangle them to death, sometimes using their own stockings. Many women found the attacks, which came to be known as the Green Man attacks, to be horrifying. DeSalvo received a life sentence once it was determined that he was the culprit. Number 6, Ted Bundy. One of the most well-known and talked about serial killers in history is Ted Bundy. Entertaining, good-looking, and pure evil, he admitted to killing and viciously beating at least 30 women in multiple states in the 1970s. Bundy had a convoluted family life. He was not mistreated or abandoned, rather, he was raised to believe that his original mother was his sister. It was disclosed on the documentary-style show Snapped, Notorious Ted Bundy, that, as a little child, Bundy had stolen knives from the kitchen and put them on the bed where his aunt was sleeping. Bundy also developed a keen interest in violent crime periodicals, which frequently featured graphic images of dead women. Bundy experienced a lot of sexual relieving through the fictional stories, according to psychologist Al Carlisle. Nevertheless, no one could have predicted the young Bundy's eventual level of violence. He was put to death in Florida State Prison's electric chair on January 24, 1989. Number 5. Alberto Fish. 3 innocent children were killed by the deranged killer and cannibal Albert Fish, who boasted that he had assaulted over 400 victims in every state. For Fish, pain was the game. He had a desire for repeatedly striking himself with a paddle studded with nails, and he used this to torture both his victims and himself. Fish had a vicious and unsettling sexual urge from an early age. He was stirred when he was living in an orphanage and saw his friends being beaten by the teacher. Fish was first exposed to coprophagia, consuming excrement, and urolagnia, sexual arousal linked with pee, by a buddy before the age of 15. He also went to the lavatories to observe the other boys undress. Fish was apprehended subsequent to dispatching a missive to the mother of his 10-year-old prey, Grace Budd. "I cut Grace in small pieces so I could take my meat to my rooms, cook, and eat it," he wrote in the letter, demonstrating that he was, in fact, a true villain. Number 4. Ottis Toole. Ottis Toole admitted to killing more people, but he was found guilty of the murders of only 6, but it seems that insufficient evidence stopped more convictions. Toole's life was destined to end in violence, as he was raised only to witness abuse and violence. He was beaten by his mother, a religious fanatic, when he was born in Jacksonville, Florida. His grandmother, a Satanist, stole body parts from cemeteries to use in her rituals, and his elder sister sexually assaulted him while dressing him like a lady. Additionally, Ottis's father made him engage in sexual actions for his male acquaintances. Toole started lighting fires for personal gratification. Future serial killers are thought to have a predilection for fire because it arouses feelings of power, thrill, destruction, and retaliation. In 1982, Toole got into a fight with George Sonnenberg, his sexual partner, and set fire to the house where Sonnenberg was staying. Before it was found that Toole's victim count was significantly greater, he was sentenced to 20 years in jail for the murder. Number 3. Ed Gein. Ed Gein was raised on a farm in La Crosse County, Wisconsin, and only ventured off as a young child to go to school. After that, he went back home to do his tasks. His fervently devout mother would read aloud passages from the Bible to her son every day, cautioning him that all women were prostitutes and hence tools of the devil. In school, a young Gein had no friends and would occasionally burst out laughing. Because of this, bullies started to target him. He remained withdrawn even as an adult. After his mother passed away, he started excavating graves and crafting furniture and other objects from the flesh and bones of the deceased. When police arrived at his house following the murder of a local woman, they discovered an unsettling horror exhibit consisting of a human skin lampshade, a belt made of human nipples, and the victim's head preserved in a paper bag. He passed away from heart failure in 1984 at the age of 77, and his burial was left unmarked. Number 2. Dennis Rader. Dennis Rader killed 10 people in Wichita, Kansas between 1974 and 1991. He mostly employed the evil bind, torture, kill technique, which earned him the moniker the BTK Killer. The Boy Scout leader and previous president of the church had a calm family life, but he also harbored a secret desire for murder and torture. He was given a minimum sentence of 175 years in jail without the possibility of parole in 2005. Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a forensic psychology professor, said on the documentary-style show Snapped, "Notorious BTK Killer." When he was young, his mother's ring got caught on a couch spring, and she couldn't get her hand out. She apparently was terrified and told him to go get help. And because of this, he started to get a little aroused. As Ramsland went on, seeing a lady in a helpless situation excited him and marked the beginning of his thoughts about women, according to which his goal with them was to keep them imprisoned, defenseless, and staring at him in fear. That stuck in his head and became the picture he chased after constantly. Number 1. Carroll Cole. Carroll, between 1971 and 1980, Cole fatally strangled at least 15 women, including his own lover. He was put to death by lethal injection in 1985 for a few of his crimes. Even though he later became interested in women, Cole's first murder occurred when he was still a little child, a small kid. When Cole's father found out about her adulterous affairs, his aggressive mother would threaten to beat him. Cole was teased by his classmates because his mother dressed him like a female. Cole reacted by drowning a male classmate in Richmond, California at the age of 8. Other reports suggest 10. Prior to Cole's confession in an autobiography he wrote while inside, it was thought that the death was the result of an accidental drowning. He stated, "I was primed. I had committed myself mentally, even with my mother, and things just kept building until they became an obsession." Please share our videos and USB Scriobi our channel for more videos. Thanks. Have a nice day.